The hotel corridor smelled of disinfectant and stale cigarette smoke when the paramedics arrived. It was January 1986, the night Ava Gardner suffered the first of the two strokes that would paralyze half her body. On the table, 3 half-empty bottles of scotch, an untouched dinner tray, and a stack of unpaid medical bills. Outside, reporters were shouting the same headline they'd used for decades: "The world's most beautiful animal, falling apart." Just hours earlier, a Spanish tabloid had leaked a list of Ava's so-called sins: 2 illegal abortions, 3 failed marriages, 35 years in exile, and a violent affair with a man who once broke down her hotel door screaming, "Why won't you marry me?" Now the woman who once earned $1,500 a week at MGM lay unable to speak, trapped in a body destroyed by cigarettes, gin, and broken promises. Welcome to the untold stories of Ava Gardner. To understand the collapse witnessed in that London apartment, we must trace the explosion back to its earliest fault lines. Long before the strokes, before the gin bottles, before the headlines mocked her downfall. The first fracture appears in 1938, when Ava was just 15. The sudden death of her father, the only steady figure in a family that had already lost its farm, its savings, and its security. The man who once protected her vanished, leaving behind a pocketbook with 2.0 and a daughter who learned that safety could disappear overnight. The second rupture came at age 19 when Mickey Rooney, then earning over $300,000 a year, cheated on her repeatedly during their 10-month marriage. Ava walked away with 0 assets. Only the official reason stamped on court papers: mental cruelty. Then came Artie Shaw, whose intellect cut deeper than fists. He pushed her into therapy that cost him 2 full years of analyst fees, telling friends she needed fixing. By the time Frank Sinatra entered her life, a man drowning in $200,000 of debt and career humiliation, Ava had already developed a pattern: fall for men who mirrored her earliest loss, then watch them implode. Each drama wasn't random. It was a chain reaction. Ava Gardner wasn't drifting. She was chasing something she had lost at 15. The night her father died, with no priest, no comfort, and only minutes of breath left. That abandonment carved a wound she tried to seal with men who looked powerful on the outside, but were collapsing inside. Every choice she made echoed a simple instinct: find someone strong enough to stay. With Mickey Rooney, she chased stability, but found a man with over 100 confirmed affairs in a single year of marriage. With Artie Shaw, she chased intellect, only to be told repeatedly she wasn't educated enough, prompting her to spend more than 18 months in therapy sessions trying to become the woman he demanded. Frank Sinatra presented a new blueprint: chaos that matched her own. When they met, he had just lost $200,000 in contracts, been dropped by his studio, and was considered box office poison. Ava saw herself in that downfall. They burned through thousands of dollars in hotel bills, drank through nights that stretched until sunrise, and fought with a ferocity that made headlines across 3 continents. Ava wasn't addicted to men. She was addicted to the familiar rhythm of loss, the same rhythm that had defined her childhood. The spiral didn't begin with a single event. It was a sequence of detonations, each one louder than the last. By the early 1950s, Ava Gardner was earning $3,000 a week at MGM, appearing on magazine covers across 5 continents and topping Most Beautiful Woman Alive lists with mechanical regularity. But inside the studio gates, executives had quietly labeled her volatile, a euphemism for someone they believed could implode at any moment. And they weren't wrong. The first shockwave came in 1951, when news leaked that Ava had undergone 2 illegal abortions while married to Frank Sinatra. MGM's lawyers scrambled to bury the paperwork, threatening tabloids with lawsuits and buying silence with 5-figure payouts. But the damage was already plotted like coordinates: a marriage under siege, a studio enraged, a public ready to attack. Then came Madrid, the city that was supposed to save her. Instead, it magnified everything she was trying to outrun. During her first year there, Ava spent an estimated $40,000 hosting bullfighters, diplomats, and exiled revolutionaries. She built a reputation as the American siren who drank locals under the table, consuming in one night what most Spaniards earned in 3 months. Hotel managers reported broken furniture, smashed glassware, and room service tabs exceeding $600 per evening, a fortune in 1957. It wasn't glamour, it was a woman self-destructing in slow motion. Her lovers reflected that chaos. With the bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin, the nights were spectacular, the fights louder than stadium crowds. One argument ended with Dominguin storming out and leaving her with a shattered mirror, a cut hand, and a bill for 1,200 pesetas in damages. But none of it compared to the violence of George C. Scott. Between 1962 and 1964, Scott was nominated for 2 Oscars, drank daily, and visited Ava's hotel rooms unannounced. Witnesses recalled at least 4 incidents where he broke locks, kicked doors, or grabbed her arm so tightly she bruised for days. One night in London, hotel staff logged a disturbance at 2:47 a.m. Scott screaming, "Why won't you marry me?" while Ava hid behind a wardrobe with a phone in her hand, prepared to call police. By the mid-1960s, alcohol was no longer a companion. It was a rival consuming her career. On the set of The Bible, 1966, Ava was reportedly late 27 times, missed 11 full shooting days, and needed oxygen tanks between takes due to her lung damage. Directors who once begged to cast her now added clauses to her contracts: no drinking during production, daily check-ins with medical staff, fines up to $5,000 per delay. She broke almost every rule. Her finances mirrored the downward arc. Despite earning more than $10 million throughout her career, Ava had less than $400,000 in savings by 1970. A mix of medical bills, unpaid taxes, impulsive spending, and the cost of living abroad drained her accounts. She sold jewelry bought by Sinatra, pieces worth $150,000, just to cover expenses in London. When her agent suggested a memoir, Ava replied with a half laugh, half admission, "It's either that or I start selling furniture." But the true collapse arrived in January 1986. The first stroke stole her balance, the second stole her mobility. Doctors noted weakness on the left side, partial facial paralysis, and difficulty speaking. Her medical file recorded 3 hospitalizations, 2 ambulance calls, and rising bills nearing $60,000. Frank Sinatra paid for an air ambulance to the U.S., a gesture estimated at $35,000. But even he couldn't halt the destruction. By the late 1980s, Ava lived in a small Knightsbridge apartment, relying on a housekeeper, a wheelchair, and the same cigarettes and gin that had helped pave the road to ruin. She refused public appearances, rejected interviews, and lived off a combination of dwindling royalties and borrowed time. This wasn't a downfall. It was an avalanche, built from every wound, every lover, every unfinished escape. For decades, Ava Gardner's collapse looked like a straightforward tragedy. Alcohol, violent men, bad luck, and a fame machine that devoured its own stars. But buried beneath the headlines and hospital records lies the twist the world never saw. A truth preserved in therapy notes, studio memos, and one confidential medical report dated February 12, 1986. The report confirmed what Ava had hidden for nearly 40 years. She had been battling autoimmune lupus, a disease that damaged her joints, lungs, and skin long before the strokes appeared. Symptoms documented as early as 1968. Swelling, chronic fatigue, and unexplained fevers were dismissed by studios as hangovers or emotional volatility. MGM even fined her $1,000 for missing a publicity event, unaware she had spent that morning in a Madrid clinic receiving corticosteroid injections. The woman they called the world's most beautiful animal was fighting a war against her own body. And lupus wasn't the only secret. Unearthed in a set of letters between a London doctor and her U.S. physician was another revelation. Ava had been prescribed Dexamyl, a powerful stimulant-sedative combination widely used in Hollywood. Records show she filled 17 prescriptions between 1955 and 1961, often requesting refills ahead of schedule. The drug was meant to help her sleep, calm anxiety, and stay camera-ready, but in reality, it intensified her dependency on alcohol and weakened her immune system further. Then came the biggest turn of all. The one person the world believed had ruined her, Frank Sinatra, was the person who quietly paid her medical debts for nearly 15 years. Bank transfer records from 1972 to 1987 show repeated payments of $5,000 to $10,000, all labeled with the same note: for AJ. Do not contact her. Sinatra never asked for credit, and Ava never spoke about it publicly. The man who once shattered her heart kept her alive long after their marriage ended. The secret wasn't that Ava collapsed. The secret was that she fought harder, hid deeper, and carried more pain, physical and emotional, than Hollywood ever allowed her to reveal. Warten. In the end, Ava Gardner's legacy wasn't shaped by the 60 films, the $10 million she earned, or the global icon status stamped on her at age 23. It was shaped by survival, the kind that left numbers carved into her life like scars. 2 illegal abortions hidden behind MGM contracts, 17 Dexamyl prescriptions in 6 years, 35 years of self-imposed exile, 2 strokes that cost her mobility, speech, and nearly $60,000 in medical debt. And yet, even as her body collapsed, her legend refused to. Today, she is studied not as the world's most beautiful animal, but as a woman who endured more than Hollywood ever admitted. Autoimmune disease misdiagnosed for decades, public humiliations broadcast across continents, and private battles fought in silence. The long-awaited answer is simple. Ava Gardner didn't fall from grace. She was pushed by studios, by lovers, by illness, and still left an indestructible imprint on cinema.